everybody. Welcome to Inside the Mead Maker Studio. If you're curious about all things mead, you've come to the right place. Join us as we explore the mead making world, get to know mead makers from around the world, and get the buzz on the best meads around. So my name is TK, and thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to be speaking with the cats, or somebody from Zen B Meadery out of Worthington, Ohio. I believe his name is going to be Mr. Dan DeMura, who's I've been speaking with. So I'm excited to get to talk to these guys. What's going on, Meatheads? I always appreciate when you guys pop in. So I'm definitely excited to talk to Dan about the Zen B Meadery. I've been following these guys for a little bit of time, and if you saw a video that I did a couple weeks back, I guess maybe a month back at this point, called 12 Meaderies to Keep Your Eyes On. There's a Better Homes and Garden article, I believe, that came out that just had some like 12 random meaderies on there, said, hey, you should keep your eyes on these meaderies. These guys were one of them that they picked, and I kind of jumped on board and did my own little list of some meaderies that people should keep their eyes on. And I decided to keep these guys on their list after doing some research. You know, like I said, I've been following them for a little while, but hadn't quite really did a deep dive into their stuff. You know, there's so many mead makers and so many meaderies out there, you can only do so much as one person. But I definitely dug what I saw on their pages and in their social media accounts. So I decided to reach out to them. They decided they wanted to join me. So here we are. So hopefully Mr. DeMura will be here shortly, and we'll be able to get this thing popping off and going. But before I forget, as I always tend to do, what's going on, Mr. Clausen? I always appreciate you guys popping in too. I always forget to talk about what I'm drinking. So today I'm going to be drinking actually one of my own meads. I haven't had many of those on this show, but I always like to at least try to feature some mead when I can. So today I'll be drinking my own. It's a Guajillo Traditional. It's an 11%. This is made with D47 yeast. Oh, there goes Zen B Meadery popping in. Let me go ahead and shoot them over a request to join, and we'll get this thing popping off here. Invite Zen B. Oh, apparently my invite is blacked out. I'm not sure what's going on with that. If you guys want to try to send me an invite there, go ahead and try, but for some reason it is grayed out on my end. So, what's going on, Ditzy Kitty? Always appreciate when you pop in as well. Again, it's the only one that's grayed out. I can add anybody else, Steven, Ditzy, Klausing, Meatheads. I can invite any of you, but for some reason it's really not letting me invite you, Zen B. So like I said, if you could try to shoot me an invite, that'd be cool. What's going on, Dragon? Appreciate you guys popping in as well. And while we try to get this... oh, yeah, if you're not following me already, that's a fantastic point, Jeremy. Appreciate that. Yeah, Zenby, if you're not following me already, please go ahead and follow. I'm sure it wouldn't have notified him that I went live if he was following. I don't know how all that works. Notifications, I never... Oh, there we go. Now we got a request. Boom, we'll get this thing figured out. Go in. As I was saying, well, we get this thing pulled up here, and hopefully we don't experience too many technical difficulties tonight. Maybe? No? I see it. Accepting the invite right there. Yes, go live. I'm going to go ahead and get into this while we're trying to figure this out. So like I was saying, this is a Guajillo Traditional that I had made with some Guajillo honey I picked up from Walker Honey Farm there in Texas. View, yeah, I see the invite. Yes, please go live. I'm trying to do it. I picked this up last year around Christmas time. It was a phenomenal purchase. Guajillo honey, from what I understand, only comes around every so often, every 6-7 years. From what I understand, I'm not a big Guajillo pepper fan, but that's what they're telling me. So I made sure to grab some because they had it available. Again, it's something that I normally would not have found there. So I picked that up, and it's a very light, kind of earthy, little bit spicy, peppery. It says Zen B Meadery is unable to join. Maybe go out and maybe your app isn't up to date. I just updated my app before we did this about an hour ago. So I know there is an update out there, at least for the Android platform. So maybe go check that out and come back. I'm doing everything I can on my end to send another request. It's still showing you grayed out. Oh, no, here we go. Now you're not grayed out. So let me send it. Man, I freaking hate Instagram. The only thing that I take solace in is the fact that Vicky and Kevin and AJ over at Got Me don't have any less technical difficulties, and they're using Skype and some other stuff. Hey, there we go.
There we go. All right. So
Excellent.
I had to do it on my phone. I don't like that, but
Oh yeah, I should have. I see. I always forget to specify something with somebody that you got to do it on the phone. Can't do it on the. I mean, I've heard that there's ways to do it on the PC through if you download the app or something like that. But I've never gotten it to work.
just trying to get it so it's not.
To
Hang on a second. Let me kill these lights.
Oh, no problem. But anyway, so everybody else is paying attention while he's doing that. Like I said, so I got the Wahio honey, made a traditional out of that with some D47 yeast, threw some Hungarian oak in there as well. So I have not had this in several, I guess, months at this point. So I'm interested to see how this one comes out. And what you got going on there, Mr. DeMura?
This is just one of my. I don't know if you can hear me. Everything's
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
through.
yeah.
Okay.
Everything is looking.
It's
Yep,
just over my
picture's good.
phone, so I didn't know how good the speaker quality was or whatever. But so yeah, this is one of my session meads.
Nice.
This is 6.5%. This is my banana royale. So it's bananas, strawberries, and pecans and vanilla.
That's amazing. That was one of the ones I wanted to ask you about. I saw that in your lineup of your bottles, which I love your guys' artwork design. We'll get into that in a little bit too. But man, yeah, that Banana Royale. So what inspired that? Actually, before we get into that, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick. Give us a little background on ZenB, and I want to get into that Banana Royale flavor.
My name is Dan DeMura. I am the owner, founder of ZenB Meadery. I discovered mead in 2010 and started home brewing, like a lot of other meadery owners. I was home brewing, and then it was around 2016. I'm a little older. My kids are grown, and so we were empty. My wife and I are empty nesters, and so I decided it was my turn to play. So it was around 2016. I decided to look at getting my liquor license. It took me about 2 years, about a year and a half to get my liquor license.
Okay.
And so we got it in around 2018, and started off small because we're self-funded. We found a small space that I could afford the rent, and we're producing and then just putting into stores locally here, mainly in Columbus area, Columbus, Ohio. And then about last year, my wife and I decided we needed to get a bigger location because we were outgrowing our current space for production, and so we just got a new location last year. Now we've got a little over 2,000 square feet, and I've got a tasting room, which we did not have before, but now we have a tasting room, and then the production, and we're trying to scale it up and just continue to grow. So everything I make, we make it, sell it, put it right back into the meadery. That's what this is. So
Very cool.
it's either my midlife crisis or my retirement, one of the two.
Little from column A, little from column B.
Yeah, because I kept my job for about the first year, but after about the first year, decided to make this work. I was going to have to put in it,
Nice.
completely. And then after winning a few medals from the National Honey Board, my wife was convinced that maybe I know what I'm doing, and so she's on board now, and so we're making it happen. That's where we're at. So
Awesome. And then the name ZenB, where does that come from? It's not often in America that you see any meaderies that are, have a Asian theme to them.
yeah, we're Asian themed in the sense of my wife is Japanese, and then I practice Zen. So when we named the meadery, we wanted it to be something personal to us, our family, and the style that I do, the session meads, I don't make any claims of creating that. I was inspired by Bee Nectar, because Bee Nectar was one of my favorite. When I discovered mead and I started making it, obviously you make the higher ABV, as I started exploring and found the different styles of mead, the Bee Nectar session meads were ones that I really enjoyed very much. And then so when I decided to, start the Meadery, I wanted to do the session meads because it's what I enjoy drinking. So I make what I enjoy, and then
Nice.
hopefully other people will appreciate it as well. So we primarily focus on our session meads. That's really what's available online. In the tasting room, I do have still meads available. So we do have um, the higher ABV meads here available in the tap room, in the tasting room. So
Gotcha.
I do a traditional. I've got two that I did in a rum barrel. I've got a bourbon barrel aged one. Then I've got two whiskey barrel ones that are coming out in November. So I like
Nice.
playing with the higher ABV meads as well, but it's mainly the session meads is what I promote to the stores and the people who carry me.
And those session meads you're talking about are the ones where you have like the banana royale flavor that you're talking about. And you've got one that's called like blue flapjacks, I think. So you do your at least with your stills, you instill a lot of that unique creativity that you see a lot of the other sugar belt style meaderies doing in their still meads.
Right. Yeah, we do the session meads. I do, and the reason that's another reason why I do session meads is because they actually turn a little faster. The session meads take about a month and a half, 2 months to make from start to finish.
Hmm.
But the still meads, they take a lot longer. They take like eight months or longer, to actually make. So this because the session meads, I can turn them a lot faster. I do a flavor every month. So this
Oh,
month was the blue flapjacks, which is a blueberry pancakes, and then this October, my son finally talked me into doing a pumpkin pie
ooh,
spice. I've never been a. I mean, I don't want to talk about bad about my own product, but because I mean it's good, but I'm just
I
not a
hear you.
pumpkin. I'm not a pumpkin person.
Yeah,
He finally talked me into doing a pumpkin pie. So we've got that coming out
nice.
next week. So pumpkin pie spice, and that actually is based on that's a sizer. So it's an apple
Ooh,
sizer, and then with the pumpkin pie spices.
okay.
So what we do is we sit down every year and kind of figure out a calendar of what flavors we're going to release throughout the year. And there's a calendar. So there's a calendar. Like next month is the pumpkin pie,
Hmm.
and then after that is the strawberry gooseberry, and then in December is I'm doing a orange cranberry. So there's a different. So you can kind of see if you look at our website, you can see what what flavors are coming with the monthly release.
Right. Okay.
Um, Now, having said that, because I do session meads and I love playing with the flavors, there are some that we've done in the past that are not on the calendar, but I just decide I want to do them again, and so
Sure.
I'll throw them out, and they'll be on our tap because I've got 16 taps here at the tasting room, so I have plenty of room for
Experimental
flavors and
stuff
yeah,
and
experimental
crazy unique
stuff.
stuff
Yeah,
and
so
yeah.
I will experiment with some stuff and actually some of them work out really good. Like a couple months ago, we did and it's not on our calendar, but it will be now because it actually won an award this year from the National Honey Board. Is a
Ooh,
white peach. It's a white peach with lychee or
yeah.
lychee, however you want to say it. I don't know how to proper
Yeah.
pronounce it, but white peach with lychee, and that actually
Gotcha.
won a bronze, I think, at
Uh,
the National Honey Board this year.
Now I've had very few lychee meads, especially one that was done with peach. Now that's a phenomenal flavor combination right there. what made you want to do something like that? Was there something else that inspired you mead wise, or was there something that's just you're just a fan of that flavor and you wanted to bring that forward?
On that one, honestly, going back to I don't know if I completely answered it about the Zen theme. I said my
Hmm.
wife's Japanese and I practice Zen, but the Zen theme, I wanted it to be something different in the mead world. Whenever I was looking at getting a business going, um, you know, it's it's changed a little bit now, but at the beginning of the meadery boom, when a lot of meaderies were starting, and I'm not saying this is a criticism by any stretch of the means, because
Sure.
there are some people who can carry this off, but I'm not a Viking, and so but Viking themes were the standard. It's like
Right.
everybody's got to do Viking theme meads or some sort of Renaissance type theme,
Right.
and that's just not me. And so when we were coming up with the meadery, we wanted to be something personal, and so the Zen theme is it's who I am.
Cool.
And and so going now to your question about the flavors. So as I'm doing mead, obviously, because I've got the Zen branding, there are things where I will look at and I try to say, okay, well, what can I tie in here that's something unique to Japanese culture, and then try to bring it into the mead world.
Right.
And we've done a few of those. Like I do a sakura, which is a Japanese cherry blossom, the flower petals,
Yeah.
and that one actually is a still. That's a higher ABV. That's about 13
Ooh, yeah.
percent, and it is very floral because it's flower petals, real flower petals that go in there. And then so I did that because of the Japanese cherry blossom, and we wanted to do that with the mead. Another one we did was a plum wine
Ooh, yeah.
because Japanese plum wine, and so we have one called Mara Ume, and ume is the Japanese word for plum, and so it's a plum wine, mead and plum wine, with a touch of maraschino cherry, and that
Yes.
one actually is a session mead, so that's available as a session mead, and then the lychee. Now to the lychee was just a fruit that is Asian in theme, and it's not one that's very
Right.
common, and so I wanted to do something with it. And the white peach I felt was a good pairing to that, because the subtlety of lychee. If you're familiar with lychee, lychee is a very soft, very subtle
Yes.
flavor, and I wanted that subtle. I wanted the peach, but I didn't want just a harsh peach. So the white peach is a softer peach.
Yep.
So it's the white peach with the lychee, and it's a good pairing. So.
What yeast did you use for that? Because being so sensitive, I imagine you wanted to use a yeast that wasn't going to chew through those flavor profiles.
Yeah, most of my session meads, I use a mix. I mean, it's not um, any, I say,
One
like
meat across, or one yeast
magic
across the board.
secret.
Gotcha.
I started off as a home brewer, and I mean, so the yeast that I use 71B. I use D47. I mean, I use different yeasts that those two primarily I like because they are very good with fruit.
Right.
So if you're wanting the fruit flavors, if you're using fruit in the fermentation, um, those yeasts will allow that fruit character to stay and come through. They won't just take it all. I won't strip it all out.
Gotcha.
So some of it stays there. That's just my opinion. But that those are the two main ones that I use. And then depending on other session meads that I do, I use an ale yeast on some of them. I've used different yeasts. So but mainly those two. Which I do believe are white wine yeasts.
Yeah.
If so, but those two, and they're standard. You can buy them at the
Oh, yeah.
store. So, and so that's it worked, as a home brewer, and then I just kind of carried that through everything, just in a much larger capacity,
Yeah.
essentially. Um, and so,
Now,
you know, I have to
you
give
said you.
credit to like people like Sergio,
Mm,
you know, and the Mead world online of learning as a home brewer and everything like that. I mean, the staggered nutrients and keeping your yeast healthy and happy as it's fermenting,
yeah.
that's going to matter on what kind of flavor you're going to get out of the product.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the things I'm really noticing is the difference between like when you stress a yeast, it definitely gives it a different taste than if you can keep the yeast in its preferred temperature range, you know. I understand yeast doesn't, you know, it can't read, it doesn't know what it's supposed to turn out like ABV wise and stuff like that, but they do have at least a, you know, a memory of, hey, this is where temperature that I like, and they do have that preferred range. So, uh, and I have some stuff that's going right now. It's a traditional I did with some 71B just because it's what I had around and I couldn't go get anymore. And it wasn't doing very well. I read online that it could do okay in like the mid 70s, and that's pretty much what I had it at. It was about 72 to 74, and it didn't. It stopped it right around like 9.5, 10%, and I really don't know why, because everything online says it should be fine at that temperature.
Yeah, I mean, not saying that session meads are easier, but
Yeah,
I don't have to worry about getting all the way up there on
right.
most of the products I make are my process. I ferment to dry,
Hmm.
so I ferment to 7 is how I do it. I ferment to 7, and then I stabilize, and then after that I back sweeten. Um, and that's it's debatable, and there's people who don't really like the back sweetening. You want to have residual sugar, but on a session mead, that's impossible in my view. That's going to be impossible to try to
Oh
stop
yeah.
something that low. So for my sanity and for safety, because I don't want bottle
Oh
bombs,
shit.
is we ferment to dry and then stabilize and then do the back sweetening. So I ferment to 7, and then when I do the back sweetening, that will lower it a little bit. So technically, I say my meat is about 6.5%. Technically, it's between 6.5 to 7. It's below 7, so there's a little bit
Sure.
of fudge room. You're allowed fudge room. So, but
Yeah, there's places out there that straight up put like on their still meats 11 to 14%. It's like, man, if you can get away with that, that's awesome because going out and having to, dial them in. Because there's some people that again put exactly, 12.7% on there. I mean, uh, that's a brave game in my opinion.
yeah, I mean, it's little too much math for me.
Yeah, I like a little bit of forgiveness in there. So you said you took some hardware from National Honey Board. When was your first competition that you entered with your mead? When did you know that was the thing you wanted to be doing?
Um, as a home brewer, I entered the state fair, the Ohio State Fair, and we won. I won the gold at the
Oh,
state level here in Ohio, and as a home brewer, and that was kind of, if you will, kind of my confirmation of like, well, okay, I can do this,
right.
and then of course, anybody who home brews, you share it with friends and family, and friends and family always love it. Um, so the state fair, because it was a judging
Right.
thing, there was a different kind of confirmation, and it's like, okay, well, this is a panel of people, and you know,
They don't owe
and
you anything. They have no reason
they
to
don't know
lie
me
to you.
anything, and I got, I got the top in the state of Ohio, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty good, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of what prompted me, along with there was already a bug burning in me to try to do it anyway, but um, that was kind of, if you want to say, the final confirmation for me that that maybe I can pull this off, that maybe I can do this, that the meadery would actually work, and we started off. Um, I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy in the world, but I am the kind of guy that when I decide to do something, I figure out how to do it.
You're all in.
And so one of the barriers to entry, if you're trying to start a meadery, is to get a liquor license, you've got to have an address.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and I've heard some people get them pretty quick. They can get through the paperwork pretty quickly. I've known some meaderies that I've talked to, meadery owners, they got it done in like 3 months and they had their license.
Yeah.
I'm like, how the hell did you do that? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
It took me about a year and a half total from between federal and the state total. It was about a year and a half. So that's a lot of time where you're paying rent on a location where you're legally not allowed to do anything because you have to have a license attached to the address. Now, if you're rural, and that's why a lot of meaderies sometimes will start off, with a shed in the back, and as long as it meets the requirements and it doesn't have the entryways and access and stuff like that, you can actually start it on your own property in your backyard. That's great. I didn't have that. So we're in the city, we're in Columbus, so I had to find a place where I could afford the rent. And so my first location where I got my license was literally 300 square feet, a tiny ass little office. And I did that on purpose. That's what I'm saying. I did it on purpose. Like I said, I'm not the smartest guy, but I figured out a way to do it. I'm like, okay, I got to wait for a license. So I found the location that would tie the license to, and it was 300 square feet. So my rent was affordable. I just paid for it out of my pocket.
There you go.
So, and Mead is a wine. So, and I know states have different rules. And so I'm going on what I had here in Ohio. The only equipment I had to worry about was what I was fermenting in, which is essentially buckets. And you're not required to have tanks. You're not required to have like a brewery. So all I had to have was, something to show that I was fermenting in, which was essentially, I started off with, on my liquor license, started off with 5-gallon buckets, just homebrew buckets. Yep. And my sink, I didn't have the triple sink. So state of Ohio, at that point, they said if I did any tastings, I wouldn't be able to use glass. I'd have to use plastic.
Disposable
stuff. Right. Yep. So that's where I first got my license, was a little space, 300 square feet. Now, that got me the license. Immediately after I knew the license was almost done. I was dealing with state. So as soon as that was working in works, I started looking around. Yeah. And I got lucky on this part. But in the same building I was in, there was a space like 3 doors down in this warehouse that I was in, and it basically was 850 square feet. So I'm like, okay, well, that's bigger. So I immediately latched onto that. As soon as I got the federal approved, and all I was waiting on was the state, I went ahead and started renting, or got the lease for that 850 square feet. Yeah. And then as soon as the state approved me for my liquor license, literally within the same month, I turned around and filed for a transfer. So I transferred my license from that little 300 square feet location to the 850 square feet location. Yeah. And the transfers are a lot easier. You can transfer liquor license a lot easier than actually going through the first steps of getting it, because it's different. You're transferring, you're not applying. It's not the same thing. Right. So that was the way I did it. And I did that to overcome that barrier to entry, because I didn't have a lot of money to start off with. So it's like, to get that license, I knew I needed to have something I could afford paying rent on for like over a year. Yeah. And I did. So I just paid rent for that little office, and then I got the liquor license. Then I transferred it to a little bit bigger location. And then we were there, and that is still small. 850 square feet is still tiny. But I had a triple sink at that point. Now I had room, and I was actually, doing proper viable production. Yeah. And then we started producing, and then putting it into stores. And then we did that. Then COVID hit. That was kind of a pause, if you will. We'll ignore that. We'll
Sure.
skip through that. But then, um, last year, my wife and I was looking at actually not last year, year before last, because we've been here a year now.
Oh yeah.
Um, so we started looking at my production, and I knew I needed more room. So we started looking around, and we got lucky with the location that we're in here in Columbus. I actually do like the location, and I have room now for a tasting room, and we've
Gotcha.
got a little over 2,000 square feet. So we've grown every year since I started, and it's been baby step, baby step, baby step, baby step,
Yeah.
and everything. Is because we're self funded. I've done what I can afford to do. And if I can't afford to do it, I just don't do it. I mean, I would love to
Yeah.
do it, but if I can't do it, I can't do it.
Right. You're not
So
trying to go drop six figures, $250,000, $300,000 on a spot, and to try to get built up to the rate that some of these other cats are. I mean, some of these people come out of these, open their doors to the public with, either
right,
owing investors a ton of money or owing the bank a ton of money, and I couldn't imagine the stress of having that hanging over your head.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I didn't want that. I didn't want that hanging over my head. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, as I started doing it, I wanted to prove that it was viable. I wanted
Yeah.
to ease my way into it. And I didn't want, I mean, initially, I shouldn't say I didn't want to. Initially, we did talk to people. We did talk to with friends and some other consultants and about the
Mhm.
idea of getting loans and
Going that
investors
more
and stuff
traditional
like.
route, so to speak.
Yeah, doing a little bit more traditional route, but I'm thankful. I've got some friends who are business minded and gave me some good counsel, on what it means to take on a partner, to take on investors,
Hmm.
and what you're giving up, and the requirements that they're looking at, etc. And
Yeah.
it was just not something that my wife and I wanted to do. So
Well, I
we
hear
we
that.
wanted to keep it very fluid and very personal. And I mean, everything I do is because I want to do it. And if I want to do it,
Yeah.
I do it. That's what I do.
I love hearing stories like that, that people just, do work within their means to make, whatever they want to have happen. There's a couple out in Colorado at Dragon Meadery, and actually a couple meaderies in Colorado, as a matter of fact, that their state laws allow them to open a meadery in their garage or in their, in a structure on their personal property and everything like that. They have there's some minor rules that they have to follow, but um, just something like that that helps alleviate that need. Like you were saying, mostly the biggest initial cost is going to be having to rent a place that you're not legally allowed to be selling mead from. You're not, like you said, not even allowed to be legally producing mead there.
Mhm.
Um, so it's cool and it's inspiring to talk to people that found unique workarounds to that type of initial financial burden that a
Right,
lot of places have to take on.
right, right. And that's what I was saying earlier is that I do know of a few people who if you've got it on property, if you can do it on your own property, that's awesome. And I live in the suburbs, so I
Yeah.
can't do that. Now,
And a
having
lot of it
said that,
varies from state to state too. I mean, some states just don't even allow that, regardless of rural, urban, anything. It's just not allowed.
yeah. Now, having said that, that is my goal. My next step is my wife and I have pretty much said I've got a 5-year lease on this space.
Mm,
Um, but we don't want to renew it if we don't have to.
sure.
I would rather the goal is to outgrow this, and if we outgrow this,
There you go.
what we'd like to do is we want to sell our house and then move outside of Columbus a little bit, and
Yeah.
I want to buy 5 acres, and then I want to go back to what you're talking about, where I will have my production right there on my own property in a pole barn. I'll build a pole barn in the back and
Yes.
have my production in the back. And then we may still have a tasting room in town for the presence and branding, but all the production would be done in my own facility.
Oh,
That
that's
way
awesome.
I'm paying myself rent instead of paying, commercial landlord.
No
Um,
kidding.
because commercial real estate is, I don't know what you do if you're familiar with it, but it's freaking crazy.
Oh yeah.
And the amount that I pay for rent is 3 times what I pay for my house. So
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I had a distribution, wholesale distribution set up when I was in Arizona. I had a 3 foot by, it was like 2.5 by 3.5 by like 5 feet deep. And it was just a cooler inside of a storage facility that was specialized for doing wines and stuff like that. And it was over $200 a month for something that small. So I can only imagine that, the larger places get, exponentially more expensive.
yeah, yeah, it's so they that's one of our goals is to I want to move, if you want to say, off the grid,
Hmm.
with, and produce it out somewhere else than here. But
Well, that's
we'll
even
see. We'll see. If not, then we're good. I'm happy with the location we're in. So, um, but I do
gotcha.
want to outgrow it. That's the goal, is to outgrow it.
Gotcha. One of the things that I did notice when I was looking around your pictures on uh, your profile and whatnot, you have a gigantic, like, is it a bee kaiju like mural that's on your wall?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you are you the one who's painting that?
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah. My art. I do graphics, and
gotcha.
so the art is my passion. The going back to the theme that we're trying to play with the Zen and the tie-ins. I'm just trying to be different. I want something to be unique,
Definitely.
and so when we didn't have a tasting room previously, so all I had was the bottles. But now with the tasting room, we've I've really poured over it and trying to figure out, well, what to do here.
Yeah.
And the Zen theme, I don't want people to think that I'm too spiritual about it. I mean, yes, I practice secular Zen, but this isn't a Buddhist monastery by any stretch of the means.
I gotcha. I
So
gotcha.
I don't want you coming in here expecting a monk with robes and shit like that. So,
Gotcha.
we, I came up with the idea of putting kaiju on the walls, and because I'm a fan of Godzilla and kaiju and
Hell yeah.
anime, and so I don't know if it's on Instagram or not, but I've got prints, woodblock prints from different artists. A couple of them are out of Florida.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's one from Europe. But I've got 3 Godzilla prints on the wall right now. But
Nice.
the mural is based on that. The mural is based on um, traditional Japanese woodblock prints were carved and then they're printed in ink. And so these posters, the prints that I have on the wall, that's what they are. They're hand carved um,
Whoa.
block prints. They're cut and then printed. And now they use lino block, which is a little softer than wood, but it's the same principle. It is a wood block. It's wood. It's similar, same process as a wood block print.
Gotcha.
So that style, that theme is what I was going for with the wall. And I designed the wall to be kind of modeled after Mothra, with a giant bee. The Japanese, it's on the wall, it says Kirabachi, which means killer bee in
Nice.
Japanese. And so it's a giant bee overlooking the skyline of Columbus. And so
Awesome.
that's right there when you first walk in the tasting room. That's right there at the door, and then as you come in, and then there's tables, and on the wall, like I said, there's posters of the other Godzilla prints and stuff.
Very
So we're doing the
cool.
kaiju, kind of just being playful,
Yeah.
kind of a youthful theme to the tasting room. Like I said, to soften it up, so it's very casual. I don't want people
Yeah.
to get too to get impressions that just because it's got the word Zen in the name, that this is any type of monastery or something
Gotcha.
like that. So you can
It
come
almost
here,
has
just
like a
chill and hang out and play games and have fun. That's what it's all about.
it almost has like a boba shop type of vibe or like a ramen shop type of vibe to it.
Yeah, a little bit. Um, there is a brewery out of Florida that oh, my brain just went freaking dead first.
Oh,
Uh,
I could start naming them, but I
oh
don't.
shit! Well, I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on your show.
Absolutely,
Um,
100 fucking
the,
percent.
okay. The what's the name of
Tampa
it?
area,
Yeah,
Miami area.
it's a Buddha. It's a Funky Buddha
Oh,
Brewery. Uh,
never heard of those
and
guys.
yeah, so if you look at Funky Buddha, they've kind of done the same thing. They've taken the Buddha
Uh,
and but they've modernized it, and with their logo and with the style, I mean, they're huge. I mean, I'm not trying to copy them per se, but
sure.
I do find inspiration from that type of branding, and so that's where it's coming from.
Okay.
I'm trying to take the Zen theme, but I'm trying to funk it up a little bit, and and have fun with it. Um,
Cool.
the labels I did and that's the other reason I chose the Zen theme is because I knew when I was first starting off, you've got to stand out on the shelf,
Yeah.
and my bottles do that. They stand out on the shelf at the store. So when you're looking at me, you know, you may not know what I am, but it immediately catches your eye, and you're like,
100%.
"Well, what the hell? What the hell is this?" And so it gets you to stop and look at it,
Hmm.
and that's the first step. So that's what I do with the labels, and that's what I'm
Nice.
doing with the theme.
Yeah.
Is just to
So many people drink with their eyes, just like you want your food to be plated delicious. You want your label on your bottle to look intriguing and eye-catching and stand out from the crowd. There's so many bottles out there it's so easy to just get like, label blinded and just get passed over. And you guys, like you said, you have a unique label that stands out, certainly amongst in the mead world, but most definitely amongst shelf, other products that are going to be on like your shelves at your regional liquor stores or grocery stores or wherever you happen to be fortunate enough to get in.
right, right, and then that's what I was going for. So
Yeah, mission
we wanted
accomplished.
because when we yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. So you know, we because we were produced. That's how I started. It was just producing and putting it into stores,
Yeah,
and then growing it ever since. Now we're still small. You know, it is humbling. I'll tag back to how you and I first started
oh
talking.
sure.
It's like to be picked up, to be recognized. I don't know who the hell that lady
Yeah,
was, some
yeah.
European
Hmm.
author, whatever. To say, Meadery's in the U.S. to pay attention to, or put on your whatever the hell
Keep
she
on
said.
your radar. Yeah,
Keep on your radar, and it's like, okay, that's pretty damn cool. Here I am. I mean, I'm nobody. It's
I'm
like,
assuming they didn't reach out to you then.
oh, no, no, I don't know. I don't know who she is. I saw it the
That's
same
fucking
way you
awesome.
did. I saw it the same way you did. I'm like, whoa, cool. I'm in an article, and
Yeah,
so it's humbling when people recognize what you're doing,
yeah.
and and so yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I just do what I do, and hopefully people like it, and appreciate it. So
Yeah.
that's all I can do.
So your location that you guys are at, I see that you have shuffleboard and do some shuffle bowling. Do you guys do any? Well, first of all, are you in like a heavy foot traffic area, or somewhere that's like foot traffic adjacent, and do you guys have like other things like trivia's and karaoke's and that those other more stereotypical type of events?
Yeah, to answer the foot traffic question, the answer is no, we're not,
Oh,
and that goes back to the rental complaint that I was making earlier. It's just it costs money, and yeah. So the square footage that I have, for me to be in an actual foot traffic area would be probably even 2-3 times higher than what I'm paying now.
oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
And now, theoretically, if you've got the money to do it, yeah, if you got the capital to to fund it. It makes sense. You can get in there, get recognized, get known, blah
Yeah.
blah blah. But like I said, we're taking steps, baby
Yeah.
steps, and so we needed the art for our purposes. We just needed more room
In general.
in general for production. Primarily, is what I needed was more room for production because I was on top of myself
Gotcha.
of what trying to make the mead that I and keep up with where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
So we needed more room for volume for those amount that we were making, and that's what I was looking at. Now we did get lucky, and I am happy with the location that we have.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of hard to explain, but we're in. It's technically still industrial, but I think you hit it when you said we're adjacent. So right down the road is the foot traffic area, kind of. So it's
Right.
within. It's like right off the path.
Right.
So we're not too buried. So people for mead and craft alcohol in general. Well,
Yeah.
it's a destination. You're coming here to try mead. You're coming here to do,
Right.
a tasting, and so people do travel for that.
2 blocks off the main
Yeah,
drag isn't a
just a
big
couple
deal for
minutes.
people.
Yeah, we're a couple blocks off the main drag.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
so we are off the drag, but there's still an awareness that we're trying to build for the tasting room, as
Sure.
far as just being here. So trivia nights, bingo, we're not quite doing them yet, but it's something that I definitely want to do. This whole we've been here a year now, so we got this space last year. We finally opened in November. We finally opened the tasting room in November.
Oh, wow.
So this coming November will be our 1 year of being open in the tasting room. But even though I was open, we weren't done building it out. So I've been building it out slowly because everything I do, I pretty much have done myself because it's
Nice.
just cost wise. The tables I've built, the benches that people sit on, I've built it. That shuffleboard that you were mentioning,
Yeah.
that's my toy. I did build that too. So yeah, that was just me. That's my man cave kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's a 9-foot shuffleboard. I built that, and I had a friend of mine who, a buddy, business acquaintance,
Sure.
that had a bowling alley lane, and so that's what we used for the play field, is to cut down a
There you
bowling
go.
alley lane. And so it's pretty nice. I mean, it's a shuffleboard. Not everybody's familiar with shuffleboard, but
Yeah.
I like it, and I thought when I first got this location, when you first walk in the room, through the door, the layout of the building,
Yeah.
immediately when I walked in, a little backstory. I had already started building this shuffleboard. Me and my son had already started working on this shuffleboard before we got this location. It just became one of those projects that just never got done.
Gotcha.
And so whenever we got this location, I walked in the door and I'm like plotting everything out, and I did the measurements along the wall, and I turned to my wife and I said, "This is the perfect place for my shuffleboard." So that's what it became, the motivation to finish the shuffleboard
Sweet.
and put it here. So that's why I said this is kind of like, I turned the tap room into kind of my man cave because it's my toys that I play with, but it's for customers too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I did,
Cool.
we're like I said, we're trying to just make it a casual place for people to come in. They can play some games. We actually have board games. You
Nice.
can play board games and drink mead and just chill.
And just hang out.
That's what it's all about.
To backtrack just a little bit, because I can't get over this $300 room, basically is kind of what it sounds like. What was your
300
intention,
square
like
feet. 300
300
square
square?
feet, not
Yeah.
$300. A little more than that, but
Sorry. Yeah.
it was 300 square feet, and it was a rent that I could afford. Yeah.
But
So
I guess what was your plan had that like you not been able to, find something accommodating within the reason? Did you have, you said you were still using like 5 gallon buckets, and were you prepared to brew out of the 300 square feet,
Um,
or, Mead make out of it?
well, I mean, initially, I wasn't sure how long it would take me to find
Right.
a second location. But yeah, initially that was the plan.
Wow.
Was not necessarily 5 gallon buckets. I found access, um, and I'm trying to remember the name of the meadery. It's in Upper New State, New York. Um, oh man, I feel bad because he was a really good guy. When you're first starting a meter, you reach out to. I mean, I did anyway.
Yeah.
You reach out to other meadery owners and you start picking their brain
Oh,
and trying to
absolutely.
figure out stuff. And the first inkling or first thing people think of is, oh, you got to have tanks.
Yeah.
And that's what people think is tanks. Um, but I was talking to a guy in, like I said, in upstate New York, and he's the one who steered me towards barrels. He said food grade barrels,
Yeah.
because they come in different sizes. So you can get 15-gallon food grade barrels, you can get 25-gallon food grade barrels, you can get
Right.
55-gallon food grade barrels. So my first steps were in a 5 gallon bucket or brewery bucket. There's six
Yeah.
gallons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're 6.5 gallons, whatever,
Yeah.
head space, but essentially 5 gallon buckets. So I started in 5 gallon buckets, but I already had purchased some small 20 gallon barrels that I was going to, if you want to say, scale into, and those are manageable. I mean, it's heavy, but you can move them around. A small 15, 20
Yeah.
gallon barrel, you can move it around, manhandle it,
Yeah.
and move it from one side to the other, and you just rack from one barrel to the next. And so that's how I was doing it starting off, was just was the plan was. I didn't actually have to do it that
Yeah.
way,
No,
but the plan
if you
was
had to, though.
well, actually I shouldn't say that, because I actually did. As soon as I told you I got my license, and then I put in for the transfer, but the transfer did take like 3 months. So I started producing,
Oh,
and
yeah.
my first couple batches were done in the smaller barrels, more smaller
And
buckets, because that's where I
that.
was at. And
Gotcha.
so
Okay.
the first couple of tastings, to friends, family, local fans, if you will, because I built a Facebook page and try to
Yeah.
get a following. And so the first couple of, if you want to say, tastings that I did were coming right off of those smaller 6.5 gallon
Barrel units.
buckets. And so that's with the first couple batches. But yeah, so then
Gotcha.
I moved into, like I said, the 20 gallon barrels.
Yeah.
Now everything I do, I still ferment in 55 gallon barrels. It's just my preference.
Yeah.
Um, I like the scalability. I just have a lot of freaking barrels. Um, um, they take up space this way,
Yeah.
but I have them on rollers, and so
Yeah.
it's like Jenga. You just roll them around,
Yep.
in the room, my room that I have designated as my fermentation room.
Yeah.
So they're all in there, and it's like you can't, when you first walk, you open the door, you can't walk in it because it's full of barrels. But if there's a batch I need to get to, I just got to play Jenga. I got to move, put it on rollers. You move
Yeah.
that barrel out of the way until you get to the batch that you need, and then you work on
Yeah.
it. You see what I'm saying? You're just moving around. You're
Oh,
just
yeah.
rolling around.
Yeah, like that little
So,
puzzle game where you have the little squares you move around to
right,
get to the open
right.
square
And
and just get
so,
what you need to. Hey, man, if it
so,
works, it
sca-
works.
so scale wise, I mean, you can buy, and it's just my style of making mead too.
Yeah.
You know, I could buy a 150-gallon tank. I've got room for it now. I've got room now in this facility. I could do that. But two things. Number
Yes.
one is you cooling. You were talking about temperature control and
Yeah.
stuff earlier for the yeast. You got to take that into consideration.
Oh, 100%.
150 gallons is a total different game than a 55-gallon barrel as far
Oh,
as
I can
temperature
imagine.
control, and because the yeast produce the heat and stuff. So and then the second thing is this, well, what are you doing? Am I going to make 150 gallons of one flavor?
Right.
Or am I going to make a base and then, and then back sweeten it that way? Well, there are some meaderies that do that. And again, I'm not criticizing. There's just different styles. My
Yeah.
style, however, is if it's got fruit,
Yeah.
I use fruit on the front and I use fruit on the back.
Gotcha.
So it's more work, because I'm putting, I have to keep every single batch has to be separate. So like if it's got berries, strawberries, blueberry, if it's got berries
Yeah.
in the product, it's going to be on the front
And
and then it's going to be on the back. The and so that means every single batch is its own entity.
right.
And so I can't really do a 150-gallon base mead and then split it and then back sweeten it with different flavors that way. Now I could if I were doing a sizer, because
Yeah.
a sizer I could do a large batch of a sizer and then split it down that way. Which I have taken my sizers and split that 55 into two smaller 20 gallon, 25-gallon
Sure.
barrels and done flavor experiments that way.
Right. Caramel
But
apple versus spiced apple or
right.
something.
Right. So, but for the most part, my means are individualized. That every batch is its own thing. So,
Yeah.
so I do the 55-gallon batches, and it works. It works for me. Because that way I can control.
What you got?
Going in and going out.
Gotcha.
So
That's very cool.
just more barrels. That's all.
Now, you're in the Columbus, Ohio. You're kind of, I wouldn't say on the outskirts of, but I mean, you're still in that like what they consider the sugar belt area. Do you feel that you benefit from being in that area? I mean, I feel like there's a lot more generalized mead knowledge from people in the Ohio,
No,
Michigan, Illinois area.
not Columbus.
No.
And we're right on the edge. I shouldn't say no, no, because maybe I don't know how to answer that. Maybe if I were, you know, in, Georgia or something, maybe it'd be harder than
I
here.
gotcha.
But Columbus is really not close, it's not as close as you think to that sugar belt area. Um,
Gotcha.
the Cleveland now upper in Cleveland area, there
Mm.
are there are about my knowledge there are about 18 meaderies in Ohio,
Oh, okay.
and all of about four of them are up north. So there's four of us that are down like mid Ohio and then
I
southern,
gotcha.
but most of those meaderies are up north, Cleveland,
Gotcha.
Akron, up towards that area, like you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Um, so we do get people who travel from Cleveland and other parts of Ohio because people travel within the state.
Yeah.
So it's beneficial that way. But as far as direct exposure, no. As a matter of fact, the that sugar belt, the one that is into Indiana,
The festival.
yeah, the festival that Manic I think does, right?
Hmm.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't attended that yet.
I know. That's
I
what I was thinking. I was like, you guys are
Yeah,
like right there in the area,
yeah,
and it's
we
kind
we
of.
haven't attended that, and I've chosen because it's not that I don't want to, but going back to what I said earlier is like I have to calculate out like what I
Oh,
can do
sure.
and what I can't do, and so where we're at and what I'm focused on, where I'm putting my money, how I'm building the business.
Yeah.
The only thing that would do is it does gain me some exposure online,
Hmm.
and if you want to say in the mead world for shipping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And not that I don't appreciate people who order online. We do ship via through
Vino
Vino
shipper.
Shipper, but that is
So
a job in and of itself. Having that shipment program it's a lot of work,
gotcha.
and so it's not. I mean, it's not something that I'm I mean, I don't, like I said, I greatly appreciate anybody who wants to order online, but
Yeah.
it's not that, it's not something I'm really like trying to focus on, if that
It's
makes any
not
sense.
built into your current business model
It's, I
as like a
mean,
main
it
focus.
is, it is, but it's not. It's a piece of it, but it's not the main focus.
Gotcha.
My main focus is the tap room, and then trying to grow our distribution locally,
Yeah.
and we're self-distributed, so
Oh,
it's the
nice.
sale game of Ohio allows that, so that's another state thing that we're blessed with. I can
Yeah.
benefit is I'm allowed to self-distribute.
Yeah.
So
No
um,
kidding.
so we're not in as many stores as I want to be, but we're growing that footprint, and then at some point, once I've built up enough volume, as far as I feel comfortable that I can keep up with it, I will start talks with the distributor. But distributorship that's another bird
Oh,
in and
yeah.
of itself too, because it's like a marriage, and sometimes they're not good marriages, and they end in ugly, ugly, ugly things. So
100%. Definitely. Well, we just are crossing the 1 hour mark. Do you have a couple more minutes? I could fire some rapid fire questions at you.
yeah, you go. Your time.
Right on. I appreciate that, my man. So at the end of the conversations, I like to do a little like get to know you rapid fire question type of thing, like a inside the actor studio type of knockoff. So what's the first thing you think about in the morning when you get up?
What's the first thing? Are you talking about now, or in general? Because I mean, you have to talk about
Just in
now.
general.
I have hobbies. So my hobby right now is I play options, stock options. So
Oh, there you go.
for the last freaking month, I've been playing this. My every morning when I wake up, I'm thinking the stock market opening because I'm playing options. So I know that's
There you go.
geeky, and not everybody
No,
gets that, but that's me. That's what I'm playing with. So yeah.
no, I understand that when I'm nerding out about something, as soon as my eyes pop open, it's the first thing I can think of. It's like, I need to get back on that and check it out or whatever we got going on. 100%. Hot or cold?
Hot, cold. I don't know what you're talking about, but cold.
Just in general.
I drink cold coffee. I like cold beverages, so
There
cold
you go. That leads me to the next one. I say coffee or tea?
coffee.
What's your favorite breakfast cereal from when you were a kid?
Breakfast cereal,
Yeah.
Rice Krispies.
Rice Krispies. Don't get that one a lot. I like the Rice Krispie, man. They wouldn't have turned it into Rice Krispie treats if it wasn't
Yeah,
something magical about that
there
cereal.
you go.
Um, what was your first car you had?
A yellow Pinto, 1968, I think, or somewhere around in there. So,
You have that one for a while?
um, yeah, it was my high school car.
There you
And
go.
that's what I had. I like.
Do you have
I love there's a Pinto is a good car. You just don't get rear-ended, but
just says you just don't get in a rear end collision, you'll be all
yeah.
right. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? Uh-oh.
That was my wife calling. If I could have any superpower, I wouldn't have superpower. It'd be Batman. I'm Batman.
Oh, you want all the technical skills and all the
Oh yeah,
gadgets and all the
yeah,
cool
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. Batman doesn't need superpowers.
Hey man, that's pretty legit. I can understand that. Um, if you weren't a mead maker, what would you be doing?
Graphics, art.
Graphic design.
Hmm.
That was your passion before, and that's what you'd be going back to.
Well, that's what I want to build into. I mean, I want
Oh,
the meadery to be successful, but my art is always going to be part of what I do.
oh, very cool. Um, if you could pick any actor to replace in a movie, who would you pick? Like if you could replace yourself with any actor to be like the main character in a movie, what would you pick? Like I would always pick Keanu Reeves in the Matrix. I want to be Neo so bad.
Oh, if I could be a character in a movie,
Yeah, you could replace the actor and you could be that character in the movie.
you know, I don't know if any particular movie, but I want to be Nicolas Cage.
Hey, that's a solid get. That dude has
Because
all the movies. That dude is
he's
funny.
just
That
freaking
dude's
everywhere. It's like he's Nicolas Cage. You just don't mess with Nicolas Cage. So
plus then you got access to all that cool Coppola stuff as
yeah.
well. Uh, well, I appreciate your time today, brother Dan. Anybody out there who's not following ZenB Meadery already, go give them a follow. Go check out that article he was talking about. If you do a search for 12 meaderies to keep your eyes on, you'll get their article, and you'll get my video as well. Appreciate you so much, and I'm really looking forward to trying your stuff once I get an opportunity to purchase some.
Sounds good.
Thank you so
I
much,
appreciate
and
it. Reach out, and you got any other questions, let me know.
oh, definitely, and I'd love to have you back sometime in the future as well.
Absolutely.
Right on,
Catch
brother.
you
Have a
later.
good rest of your evening.
I don't know how to end this. So
I
you,
got you right
all
here.
right.
All
Catch you
right.
later.
Well, thank you everybody for popping in tonight. I always appreciate that. Next Wednesday is my birthday, so I might have a special event going on. See if I can get some people to pop in here and there. Maybe we'll have a couple meaderies join in. So next Wednesday for a special birthday event. So thank you all very much for joining me. Appreciate that. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Peace.